Hi yogis, welcome to another installment of MimiLumi Presents, Hump Day Yoga. I'm so glad that you could join me today. Today's sequence, we're going to be revisiting a practice that I actually shared on my Instagram live about a month ago, and it's all based around variations of postures that you can do if you have any issues on knee sensitivity, particularly at the front of your kneecap or the patella. Now, if you're listening to this and thinking, totally fine, I have fantastic knees, what am I going to get out of this practice? Trust me, it's still going to be really beneficial for you. If you do have issues with your knees, then hopefully this practice is something that you can do at home to help build strength or ease those issues. Or there are variations that you can thread into your practice if you go to another teacher's class and you know that posture isn't for me. Perhaps one of these variations is something that you can sub in instead, or at least give you a better understanding of the issues that surround your knees themselves. For this practice, you will need a cushion or a folded blanket or towel, or you will need, you will need a chair, or if not a chair, make sure you're practicing close to the edge of your couch or close to the end of your bed. Without further ado, let's make a start. So for today's practice, we're going to start standing. So make your way to any end of your mat. It's fine, or in the center, feet hip width distance apart. Take a moment to bring the weight back onto your heels, pick your toes up and spread them wide, and then place them back down onto the mat. And just have a little play with your weight and try sending your weight from side to side, front to back, or little circles if you prefer. And you want to stop at a point where you feel that your weight is really evenly dispersed through all four corners of the feet. And then once you've found that happy spot, begin to bring some awareness into the legs now. So when we're thinking of knees, we want to really begin to engage a lot of the muscles that help to support those structures. So I want you to begin to engage and activate through the thighs, and it's helpful to imagine that you're drawing your kneecaps up towards your hips. And as you do that, you'll feel this natural sense of your tailbone wanting to drop down towards the floor. Inhale, roll your shoulders up towards your ears. Exhale, take them back down your spine, energy towards fingertips. And then allow your eyes to softly close, back of the neck is nice and long. Begin to take some awareness to your breath as you breathe in and out through the nose. Not trying to actively change or alter the breath just yet, but just noticing its rhythm and texture this morning. Good. As you inhale, you can really feel energy traveling up through the soles of your feet, all the way up through the legs, through the torso and the spine, through the neck and out through the crown of the head, lifting and lengthening you towards the sky. And as you exhale, you lose none of that sense of length or height, but there's an invitation to soften and surrender any unnecessary tension in the body, whether that be around the face, the neck or the shoulders. Maybe you're holding some tension in through the lower back. Today, just let that melt away. And then for these next few breaths, I'd like you to feel as though every exhalation is a little reminder to just wake up and engage through your abdominal muscles. Now, I don't want you to be thinking of firing at 100%, and like we're not going super strong engagement. But as you exhale, just think of it more of a very light engagement, about 20-30% activation through the abdominal wall. And what we're trying to do is just build a sense of awareness there through those stabilizers. Inhale, nice deep breath in, and then exhale. Again, that's just a slight contraction. Continuing that now in your own rhythm, inhaling, and then exhaling to contract. And what we're trying to do here is just to very subtly wake up the abdominal wall. And we want to encourage the abdominal wall to be always sort of firing at that 20-30% during our practice, so that there's not a point where we're completely letting go of the abdominal wall, even when we're taking nice deep breaths in and out. Good. After your next exhalation, softly let your eyes reopen and become adjusted to the light in the room. Take those hands behind your head, interlace those fingers, and we want to imagine that we're creating a hammock for our neck. So our elbows are reaching up towards the sky, and our head in the back of the skull is really resting comfortably through the hands. And if I turn, you can see I have my thumbs lining through and along the back of my neck to create that little bit of structural support. going to take a couple of little side bends here. Keep that same level of engagement for your thighs and your abdominals, and imagine you've just glued your hips in space. As you inhale, we'll lift and lengthen, and as we exhale, we'll take a little side bend towards our right. Inhale, twist right elbow towards the sky. Exhale, we release back, and then inhale, we come back up to upright neutral standing. Exhale, side bend to the left. Inhale to twist. Exhale to release from the twist, and then inhale back through center. And then you just continue this in your own flow. Exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale to recover. And every single sequence, we're just trying to make sure that we're not moving those hips. We want this movement to be coming purely from the torso, and for our neck to feel quite relaxed and released and supported with the hands. Lovely. Once more each side, once more to the right. Really activating and waking up through the obliques here. Once more to the left. Good. And then as we come back to center, inhale, come to the balls of both feet. And I want you to feel like you're lifting your head up, out of the neck and out of the spine with the hands. And then as you exhale, see if you can imagine that you've glued your head in space. And your heels will melt back down. That neck and the head will still be remaining lengthened up. Good. And then softly let the hands release. Taking a couple of small knee bends here to begin to warm up through the knee joints. So we're tracking knees out over our toes. It's not a very deep bend. This is what we would call in ballet our little demi-plie. And it's as easy as this. Yeah, you just want to start to warm up the synovial fluid that's in the joint around the knees. Nice and slow and smooth. Don't try to race it. Keeping that weight evenly dispersed through the four corners of the feet here as well. And the spine really long and engaged and neutral. So you're sending your tailbone straight to the floor rather than behind you in space. Not our chair posture. Good. Perfect. Coming back to our standing position, we'll take our hands to prayer at heart center. Let's move through 3 rounds of our circle of joy, which we would normally do seated. Today we're going to do it standing. So we interlace the fingers and then inhale, draw the elbows apart, but resist with your fingertips. Exhale, come into that C curve shape and then hear the knees bend like we were just doing then, warming up the knee joints, chin to chest, arching through the spine. Inhale, we stand up nice and tall. So once again, we're super engaged with the legs, lifting up out of our hip bones. Reaching through both sides of the torso, palms towards the sky. Exhale, the hands come behind. Interlace those fingers. Inhale, big open heart stretch, maybe looking up if it's comfortable for your neck. And then exhale, the hands return to prayer. Good. We go again. Interlace those fingers. Inhale, it's like balloons are filling up through the torso as you do this. Exhale, we press and curve away with a little bit of a bend in the knees. Inhale, grow tall through those legs and then through the torso as you lift the arms to the sky. Exhale, we take those hands behind. Inhale, open heart stretch, working the wrists a little closer together. And then exhale, the hands return to prayer. One last time, let's change the cross of the fingers this time. Most of us now will be left fingers forward. Inhale, really resist with your fingertips here. Exhale, we press and curve away. Inhale, sit up nice and tall, shoulders relaxing away from your ears. And then exhale, we take the hands behind. Try to keep the opposite cross here. Inhale, big open heart stretch. And then exhale, we release from the posture. Moving into our next few postures now, we'll need our chair. So making sure we can move that into an area where we've got a bit of space. I'm going to shift my mat out of the way. So for these next few postures, we'll need to be seated on a chair. If you don't have a chair to hand, you can sit on the edge of your bed, or you can use the end of your couch. But bear in mind, if you're sitting on your couch, it's a little lower than usually a chair or a bed, which will make one of the stretches we're about to do more intense. It's just something to be mindful of. But once you're situated, you want to make sure that you're sitting right on the edge of the chair or the surface. So it's just really your hips and your buttocks resting on the chair. And you can really feel that the soles of your feet are firmly planted on the floor beneath you. And we want the legs to be about hip-width distance apart, knees pointing out over toes. We're taking our hands underneath our thighs, right underneath the kneecaps for this next stretch posture. We're moving through a variation of our Vidyalasana cat-cow. Now it's really important that you do hold underneath and not on top, because obviously if we're doing these sequences, It's because our knee joints are sensitive. So rubbing against the patella or the kneecap is not going to be helpful. So we want to go underneath. And we're actively grounding through the soles of the feet and pressing down through the soles of the feet as we inhale. Lift the chest slightly and just lift the gaze slightly using your hands as support underneath the thighs. And then as you exhale, we start the movement from the tailbone, tucking it under and curling through the spine, chin to chest. Coming into our little cat. And again, the hands are really holding onto the back of the thighs, underneath the knees here for support. Inhale. Start the movement in the tailbone and feel that pressing through the soles of the feet to lift and lengthen your spine as you come into your cow. And then exhale, we cow. And then we just take this as a flow like we would normally on the floor for our cat-cow. Inhale to come up. And then exhale to come back into the cat. And you can close down your eyes if that feels nice for you. But wherever we are, we want to keep that little bit of abdominal awareness. So at least 30% here, maybe a little bit more, particularly as you come into cow. Good. Take care when you come into cow that you're not letting your chin come up too high. We want the back of the neck to still feel long and lifted here. Good. The next time that you exhale into your cat, let that be your last one. You can always pause here for a couple of breaths if you like, particularly if you're getting a nice stretch in between those shoulder blades. Before we inhale back to a neutral starting spine. Transitioning into our figure of four stretch. So a stretch for our hips and our glutes, our buttocks. Again, we're firmly grounding down through the supporting left leg. And then we'll pick this right leg up. And we want to place the foot above the kneecap. So again, make sure that you're not letting it slide off and down into the kneecap. You want it to be well above, foot flex, and there's a sense of the pinky toe of the right foot pressing towards the floor, and you're gently encouraging the right knee to work towards the floor. Now, if you feel like your shin's not very flat or level, if the knees are quite high, that's fine. It just means you're particularly tight here. And obviously we're at the start of our practice, so we're still warming up, and that's okay. It might be enough for you today to simply hold on to the front of the shin bone and inhale to lift and lengthen. And hold there, just working towards that neutral spine. Again, that 20-30% engagement through the abdominals as you allow the hip to begin to open. If you want to move a little deeper though, exhale. And again, you're thinking about all your supporting structures. So you're supporting through that left leg here as you come forward. And you're using the hands, it's just a little grip. And you're going to stop where you feel that first point of resistance. So I am feeling quite tight personally today in my hips. So I can't come very far forward just yet. My muscles aren't warm enough, and that's fine. So you just stop where you feel that edge of the stretch. Give your body a chance to open up and to release. Keep the back of the neck long and the face and the jaw soft. So basically this variation of the stretch, because we're up on the chair, we tend to have less extreme angles on both knees while still getting the same stretch that we would say if we were lying on our back. And obviously much safer for the knees than say our king pigeon posture where you're bringing your knee into a very strong flexion and you're leaning your weight completely on that knee essentially. And it's quite a handy one to do if you're working at a desk. You know, if you've got 5 minutes, you can whip this stretch out. It doesn't look too crazy to do in a crowded office either. But really, really good for the health of your lower back in particular, hips of course. And a lot of knee issues can stem from misalignment, which comes from tightness in hips and glutes. So fantastic one to work through. Now to release, we inhale to come back up. Use your hands to help lift that right leg up and off your left. And then we'll change to the other side. So again, thinking about that structural support, abdominals engaged, press through the right foot now as you lift that left leg up. Use your hands to help adjust and make sure you're not pressing into the kneecap. Left foot flexed, left pinky reaching towards the floor, and then we're dropping the knee, just a sense of relaxing it towards the floor. And again, you might be already feeling the stretch quite strongly just by doing this, in which case we happily hold here, deep breaths in and out. If you want to move deeper, exhale, contract the core even slightly more, and move into that forward fold. You're using the support of your hands here as well. So we want to feel like the spine is lengthening and the crown of the head is reaching towards the wall opposite you, more so than thinking, oh, I need to try to get my head towards this leg. That's not really important. If anything, you want the heart center to soften down towards the leg and the crown of the head to continue to grow towards the wall in front of you. And if it feels nice to close your eyes here, you can do so. As you inhale, imagine that you're floating the breath in towards that left hip and that left buttock. And then as you exhale, soften and release. There should be no tension being held around the face, the jaw, the neck or the shoulders. Good. So you can see this is my slightly more open side, and my shin is much more level here. And I do feel like I'm a little bit able to more come into a deeper variation of the stretch. We tend to have that asymmetry in our bodies. No matter how many years we've been practicing yoga, unfortunately, it will continue to exist, and it's just a matter of being mindful of that asymmetry and trying to balance it out. Good. Now to release, again, we inhale, lift and lengthen through the spine, a little bit of support for your leg there, and then again, use your hands to help lift the left leg out and bring it down in towards the floor. Now this next little variation is again about building strength through core and a little bit of strength through the hip flexors. If you have hip flexors that tend to be very triggery and uncomfortable and sore, this might not be the best sequence for you, in which case just leave it out, maybe repeat the stretch or do another variation that suits you. But otherwise, again, that sense of core engaging, press through the sole of the left foot. I want you to inhale and bring your right knee in towards the chest, and you're using an active bicep curl here. So this might be a happy place for you to just stay here, a little bit of a hip flexor stretch, and that's fine. Or we're going to lengthen this leg out in front of us, and we want to try and keep it slightly above hip height. And the reason for that is because we want to be using the core more than the hip, if that makes sense. So we're going to lengthen the leg and just have to completely straighten, but the hands come to prayer, and we hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then we slowly lower it down. Good, and you'll find that you've probably shifted your weight back slightly. Take that opportunity now to bring it back into its neutral alignment. You want to keep returning to this position, staying there as much as possible. So I'm going to shift now so you can see it from the other angle, so you can see what I mean about the 45-degree height. So again, I'm right up on the edge of the chair, pressing through the sole of my right. Now as I inhale, left knee in towards my chest. And again, I could just be holding here, just enjoying this little bit of hip flexion. But if I want to take the strength and engagement through my core on the exhale, and then I inhale to straighten the leg, then I take my hands away for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, really engaging through the thighs, and then exhale, we lower back down. So you can see I have shifted back slightly, so I'm correcting my posture. Let's take that sequence again on both sides for another count of 5 on each. So inhale, right knee up. Engage through the core muscles on an exhale, lengthen the leg out, and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then slowly lower back down. Again, I'm just going to correct my posture slightly. Inhale, left knee up. Exhale, engage through the core. Extend the leg, release the arms, and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and lower down. Fantastic. We just have one more pose that we're using the chair for, and this time we're coming to standing and using the chair more as a support. So we work ourselves towards the front of the chair with hands resting on the edge of the seat of the chair like we were just sitting. And the feet are about hip width distance apart. We're going to move through some knee bends, some one-legged knee bends. And the idea behind this is that we're training those thigh muscles that help with our tracking of our knee as it bends and straightens. So, hands are using us for support. We're going to lift one leg up inside. So it doesn't matter which leg you start on. I'm starting on my right supporting leg. And we're going to take 10 little knee bends. So again, they don't have to be very big, but you want to keep tracking the knee over the toes and keeping your hips as square as possible. So 9, 8, 7, 6. Keep the thighs engaged, abdominal muscles in really firing off here. 3, 2, 1. And then you simply lower left leg down. And we take it to the other side. So if you have fairly strong knees and you're thinking this feels quite easy with the chair as a support, the option is to do it without. Same idea. So supporting weight now on the left leg. And you bring the right leg up and you try to square those hips up. And you can still bring your arms forward as though they were holding onto the chair. And again, we bend for 10, You can see my knees are much more wobbly without the support. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. So we'll just do one set on each side today, but that's a really good one to do every day, maybe 2 or 3 sets of 10. If you know that that is something that's an issue, that you have tracking issues through your knee, just to help begin to train those muscles, having days to rest off if you feel the need. So we move the chair out of the way now, and we're back onto our mat, beginning to roll down to continue on with our practice. Starting in Tadasana, inhale to lift and lengthen, and then as you exhale, we begin to roll down through the spine, really nice and slowly, bending the knees as you need to, so you're not putting any pressure into the lower back. Down to Uttanasana. Inhale, let's come to a halfway lift, hands coming to shins, working towards a flat back position. And then exhale, soften and fall deeper down into the Uttanasana, and we'll walk those hands out now towards our full plank. Weight forward into the arms. And then exhale, send the hips up high to come to your first downward facing dog. Hands are very generous distance apart, about as wide as your mat, and feet are about hip width distance, maybe a little wider. When you're ready, you can begin to walk your dog's alternate heel presses as you bend opposite knee. And if you want to bring some movement into the hips, feel free to do so if that feels nice for the pelvis and through the torso. And the next time that you heel press to the left, let that be your last one. Inhale to the balls of both feet, working towards a slightly higher downward dog. Really think you've glued the tailbone where it is in the sky as the shoulders rotate out and up the spine, pressure through every pad of the hand. And as you exhale, take a big gusty sigh, and feel your heels melt really effortlessly towards the floor. From here, we'll take a little bit of a vinyasa flow, just coming in and out of full plank. So as we inhale, we come to full plank. And then as we exhale, we send the hips up high to come back to downward dog. We'll just take that another 5 or 6 times. Inhale forwards. Exhale back. Inhale forwards. And exhale back. Now, if you find traditional vinyasa flows where you come to half plank or even your full cobra, put a little bit too much pressure on your knees for the transition poses, this is a really good option, just flowing in and out of full plank to build heat. Yeah, you can hold in plank as long as you want, and then press back on and exhale. Good. On your next exhalation, just take those knees softly down towards the mat. And I'd like us to establish our rest posture. Now, for some people with knee problems, coming into child's posture is completely fine because you're not putting any pressure on the kneecap itself here. But for others, this extreme flexion is too uncomfortable if the knee joint feels too stiff. So a variation for a rest posture, which could be really beneficial for you, is instead puppy posture. So you're going to want to take your cushion low so that you can pad the knees. I can't recommend any more highly if you do have any knee issues to always make sure that you have a blanket, a thin cushion, or a folded towel that you can use to help pad the knees. Or if you have an older yoga mat lying around at home that you could put underneath your current one, that's another good option too. But for puppy posture, we pad those knees and we want the knees to be about hip width distance apart underneath our hips, like when we're coming into our cat-cow posture or any posture that starts with our tabletop position. And as you exhale, we're taking the heart center towards the floor and we're reaching the hands out in front. So it's a very strong stretch for the chest, the thoracic spine, and the shoulders. But you can see my hips are above my knees here at this 90-degree angle, which means I have far less extreme flexion in the knees, and I've got the blanket underneath my knees for support. But I can still relax and surrender down, bringing the forehead towards the floor. Nice cooling posture. Just holding here for a few breaths, making yourself feel comfortable and aware of what this position feels like, and noticing if it works for you. So it might not work for your knees, you might prefer child's posture, and that's fine. But if you find that this is a more easeful posture that you can hold for a number of breaths, maybe work this into your repertoire whenever you do another class with another teacher and they say, come to child's posture to rest, maybe play with coming to your puppy posture instead. Good. And then when you're ready to come out, it's the same sequence of inhaling to look forward and then exhaling, walking your hands back in, just like for extended child's posture. Lovely. So let's work into sun salutations now. So you've just come out of your puppy posture, come back to your tabletop, but take your hands a little further apart now so that you can tuck your toes under and press back into downward facing dog. When you're ready, inhale the right leg up nice and high. Exhale, scoop it to the front of the mat in between hands. Now this is the part in a lot of practices where we would normally drop the back knee and work through low lunge. But today we're going to skip that and we're going to stay in our high lunge, supported high lunge. So in supported high lunge, you want to open and broaden through the chest, press out through the back, left heel, and keep the hips nice and square. Good. Now, we're going to stay in the supported variation, stay rather than coming up. So when we're ready, we'll ground down through the left palm and then inhale, we're twisting towards our right, looking up at the right fingers. Make sure you keep energy pressing out through the big front toes and the knee stays pointing out over the toes. And we're bringing the chest nice and close to that thigh. A nice deep breath in and out here. And then exhale, we take the hands back down towards the mat and then we press back into downward facing dog. Good. So again, we're going to work this established flow that we did before of just inhaling forward to full plank. Weight forward into the arms and then exhale, we press back. Good. When you're ready, inhale, left leg up nice and high. Exhale, scoop it to the front of the mat in between the hands, using that left hand to help work it further forward if you need to. Pause there for a moment in supported lunge, working the hips square to the front, opening up through the right hip flexor. Good. When you're ready, we ground down through the right palm and then we inhale, twist to the left, looking up at those left fingers. And again, pressing out through the big left toes and the knee stays pointing out over the toes. And nice deep breaths here. So we're in a constricted position, which means you need to breathe more in towards the back of the spine, lower back in particular. Good. Next exhalation, we take the left hand back down towards the mat, and then again we press back into downward facing dog. Move through your vinyasa flow. Simple inhale forward to full plank, and then exhale, we come back. Good. And then on your next inhalation, we lift the right leg up nice and high. Exhale, scoop it to the front of the mat in between the hands. From here, we're transitioning into our warrior one today instead of our high lunge. So we ground down through the back left heel at a 45-degree angle. And then when you're ready, inhale to come up, hands to hips to start. So we're working with warrior one today because it tends to be slightly less extreme flexion on that knee. I know a lot of people with knee issues don't find high lunge enjoyable, which is a shame. I use high lunge a lot for my transitions, so it's my preferred sort of starting spot. But warrior one is a good place for you to come to if you know that high lunge isn't a happy place for you. You want to really ground down through the back left heel and continue to think about squaring your hips towards the front of your mat. Hands can stay on the hips, or you can inhale the arms up towards the sky. Exhale, soften your shoulders away from the ears. Good. Now with the front leg, I want you again to think about engaging through the thigh here. So even though the knee is bent, keep thinking about seeing if you can draw it up towards your hip. It's almost like you're trying to lock your thigh bone back in towards the hip socket. And you're really evenly pressing out through all four corners of the feet again, just like at the start of your class. So often, for those of us who have sore knees, we tend to put too much weight into our heel, which I can, even doing that just then, putting more weight in my heel, it's put way more load in towards my hamstring and I can feel the tension in my knee. If I'm thinking about evening out through the whole of the foot, I'm really using those tiny little muscles in between my toes to help displace that weight. I can just already feel that my knee is in a much happier place and the load between the front and the back of my thigh is more even now. Inhale to lift and lengthen up one more time, and then exhale, simply take the hands back down towards the mat and bring that right foot back into downward facing dog. Good. Inhale forwards, full plank. Exhale, we come back. If that wasn't enough heat, you can do it again. Inhale forwards. And then exhale back. Same sequence on the left. We inhale the left leg up nice and high. Exhale, scoop it to the front of the mat in between the hands. Ground down through the back right heel this time, and then inhale up. I always like to start with hands on hips just to encourage the hips to square off towards the front of the mat. And then again, we inhale the arms up. Exhale. Can you maybe deepen the lunge now that you're beginning to warm up? Maybe walk the foot a little bit further forward if that feels comfortable and safe for you. Keep grounding down through the back right heel. Engage through that front thigh, kneecap coming up towards hip, locking thigh bone back in towards hip socket. One more deep breath in. And then exhale, the hands come back to frame that front leg. And we press back to downward facing dog. Move through that flow again. Inhale forwards to full plank. Exhale back. Take 3 really deep breaths here. In and out. Feeling your body begin to open up and downward facing dog. We've built some more heat. We've opened up through your muscles. On your third exhalation, completely empty the lungs. Bend your knees slightly. And walk or perhaps even jump your feet towards the top of the mat in between your hands. Inhale to a halfway lift, whether that's fingertips or hands to shins once more. And then exhale, soften and roll back down. Hold here for a number of breaths. The knees can be as bent as they need to. Make sure you're either holding onto the floor or holding the hands onto the ankles or the shins. Use your head if you nods and shakes, just to release any tension that might have built up in the spine. And we'll roll up today with a sway. So we'll begin to sway right to left, fingertips tracing on the mat, neck really relaxed. And then as you exhale, the abdominal muscles contract, and we begin to roll up through the spine, vertebrae by vertebrae. Inhaling up, shoulders and head last. Okay guys, so one last posture using the chair or perhaps the edge of your couch or your bed. Come into Prasarita Padottanasana, so the legs are really nice and long, and the outside edges of your feet are lining up with the short end of your mat. Thighs engaged again, we're drawing those kneecaps up towards your hips. It's my favourite phrase, particularly for knee health in general. Hands on hips. We inhale to lift and lengthen through the spine, and then as we exhale, we'll tilt the pelvis forward slightly and begin to hinge forward from the hips. And you have your support of the chair or prop next to you. You might need to bring it in a little closer or move it further away. Depends on the length of your torso, obviously. And we're just stopping in our flat back position first and bringing the weight a little bit more forward in towards the balls of our feet. So in Prasarita, we often sometimes sink back onto the heels, which encourages your thighs to switch off, encourages your knees to lock, but also doesn't really hit the sweet spot for the stretch. So we want the weight forward in the balls of the feet. And normally we would continue to try to work towards the floor. But today we're going to stay at this prop height level, and you're going to relax your full head either onto the prop or onto your folded hands or arms. And you're just going to completely relax and release through the torso here. So there's a little bit of that 20-30% engagement for the abdominals again. But for the most part, the torso and the upper body is relaxed. And I want you to instead really focus on the legs here. So, outside edges of the soles of the feet are grounding and rolling down into the mat. And again, you're really engaging through the tops of the thighs, thinking about drawing those knees up towards the hips. And you're going to hold here. So this is one of those stretches that at first you're probably thinking, this is pretty simple, pretty relaxed, I'm not feeling very much. But because we've kind of taken some of the intensity out of the torso in this stretch, you begin to really notice what you can feel in the legs. So for instance, for me personally, I can really feel the muscles on the outside edges of my lower legs really beginning to fire off because they're feeling a little tight. But again, I'm really working quite strongly through the thighs, engaging through there. So I'm taking pressure off my kneecaps. And we're holding here for a number of breaths. While you might be tempted to move deeper into the posture and move the prop out of the way, I encourage you to stay here. Let's make it more about the front of our legs today and the outside edge of our legs, rather than really trying to stretch through the back of the legs or the hamstrings. Good. When you're ready to come up, engage your core muscles on your next exhalation, even more than they already are. Bend your knees ever so slightly, and then you're just going to use your hands to help bring you back up, using the prop to begin with, and then hands onto hips. Inhale back through your neutral position for the spine, and then we'll heel and toe the feet together to bring them back to standing. And then you might want to give those ankles just a little bit of a circle, just to release any tension that you've built up through the ankles or the outside edge of the lower leg. Fantastic. Good. So we've moved the chair out of the way now, and we'll slowly come back down onto our mat by rolling down through the spine, vertebrae by vertebrae, until we come to Uttanasana. Then we bend the knees, completely now, using the hands for support on the floor to come to our kneeling toe squat. And then again, using the arms to support, lower the hips and buttocks to the mat. Use your elbows as you roll down through the spine to come lying down flat on your back. We're bringing our feet to about hip width distance apart, as close to the buttocks as you can, without feeling the knees begin to pinch or complain. If they do, walk the feet a little further out. Back of the neck is long. You might even want to use your hands to help lift the neck up before you lay it back down. Toes pointing out over, knees pointing out over toes and arms beside the body. Moving into our bridge posture. As we exhale, we contract through the core muscles. Press through the soles of the feet so much you feel like you could stand as you lift the hips up towards the sky. Actively pressing through the shoulders and the arms and the hands as well. Keep those knees hip width distance apart. And then exhale, we begin to slowly roll down through the spine, vertebrae by vertebrae, releasing the lower back, and then hips and buttocks last as you inhale back to a neutral starting spine. So that was our little warm up. We'll come up once more, and this time we're going to add a pulse movement into the stretch. So as we exhale again, we contract through the core muscles, pressing the lower back into the mat. Inhale, actively press down through the arms and the soles of the feet, feeling like you could almost stand. Good. Then from here, we're going to take a little bit of a pulsing motion. So as you inhale, you're going to drop the hips slightly towards the floor, and as you exhale, press more firmly through the feet to lift the hips higher. Inhale to release slightly. Exhale to pulse up. And then you continue with your own breath. Go for another round of 6. 5. Keep those knees tracking out over the toes. 4. Don't let the knees become wide. 3, 2, 1. And then slowly roll back down through the spine. Vertebrae by vertebrae, releasing lower back and hips last. Good. Draw those knees in towards the chest. Give them another little hug and squeeze. And a gentle rock from side to side to massage through the lower back. From here, we'll transition to seated, to come to a seated meditation to close the practice. So we roll over onto our sides and then use our hands to help bring ourselves upright. Now, coming to a cross-legged position, you might like to come and sit up against a wall or up against the couch for your seated meditation. Or equally, if you're happy, just freely in the space as I am now. Before we come into the meditation, we'll take a very simple spinal twist just to recalibrate the spine. Hands come to prayer at heart center. Inhale to lift and lengthen. Exhale, begin to twist towards your right, just using the power of your abdominals. Take your right hand behind you and hook the left hand onto the outside edge of the right knee. Inhale to grow a little bit taller, and then exhale, deepen the twist. Turning to look out over the right shoulder. Try to make sure that you're not putting too much weight into the back hand. You could lift it up, and you shouldn't feel like you're about to fall out of the stretch. One more deep breath in, and then exhale, we gently unwind, back to center, hands return to prayer. Inhale to lift and lengthen, and then exhale, we twist towards the left again, just using the power of our abdominals before we release the hands. Left hand behind, right hand on the outside edge of that left knee. Inhale to grow a little taller, exhale, deepen the twist, looking out over the left shoulder if it's comfortable for the neck. Holding here for a few breaths, feeling that sense of spiraling energy, moving from the tailbone all the way up to the crown of the head. Abdominal muscles continuing to work and engage to move you deeper. One more deep breath in, and then exhale, gently unwind from the twist. Good. Now, if you want to move to the wall now, feel free to do so. Or if you want to grab that cushion back and sit up on the edge for a little bit more height in the pelvis, feel free to do so. Or even just a little bit more comfort under those sit bones. Hands resting comfortably at the knees or the thighs. Take a moment to softly close your eyes. Inhale, shrug the old shoulders up towards your ears, and then exhale, let them soften back down. Begin to bring your awareness back to the breath, just like at the start of the class, inhaling and exhaling out through the nose. Acknowledge any changes that you might be feeling in the body as a result of your practice, or any changes that might have occurred in the breath, the mind, or the heart center. Good. When you're ready, take one hand to rest on your belly, and then And the other hand to rest on the heart center. And we'll work with a very simple mantra to close the practice. And our mantra today will be the simple phrase of I am here. So as you inhale, we can think and chant aloud in our head, I am here. And as we exhale, I am here. Inhale, I am here. Exhale, I am here. Very simple mantra, something to allow us to ground ourselves a little bit more into our bodies and into the space. And to remind yourselves that that is already enough. The simple fact that you are here. You don't need to do anything else. Allow your next exhalation to conclude your mantra practice and allow the hands to softly return back to the knees. Take a moment to again just acknowledge those few simple breaths and those few simple words. Can you feel or appreciate a mindful change in your body or your thought patterns? And we'll take our hands to prayer at heart center. Gently bow the forehead down towards the fingertips. Take a moment to truly thank yourself for taking the time out of your busy day and week to practice yoga. I'd like to conclude the class with one chant of the mantra Om. You can join in simply by listening, but if you'd like to chant with me, we'll synchronize the breath by all exhaling here. And then we'll take a deep breath in for Om. Carry these peaceful vibrations with you to the rest of the day and the rest of your week. Namaste. So thank you again for joining me for practice today. If you did enjoy the video, please do hit subscribe. I release new videos every Wednesday at 9 a.m. But otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful day.